Well, hello everybody. Welcome. I'm Scott and I'm teaching a level 1 flow. I'm here at 21st Yoga and this is going to be an hour-long class, and today we're going to do a full body experience that gives us access to all the major muscles and joints of the body. It's going to be moderate intensity and it's going to be wonderful. I'm really happy to have you here. So you might want some props. You don't necessarily need to have them, but I've got some blocks, a blanket, and a bolster. I've also got a mat set up this way and a mat set up that way. I might be doing some turning, as you see, but you can just face the camera as we do this. So welcome, and I'd like to start today in a seated position, so anything that feels comfortable for you to sit down. Give yourself a moment here and set up comfortably. And the way I like to start here is just give yourself a nice full big inhale through the nostrils. Send a sigh through your mouth. And do this again, in through the nostrils and out through the mouth. Thumb and first finger together. Close your eyes for a moment and give yourself a couple of seconds to begin your Ujjayi breath. This is where we're going to breathe in and out through the nostrils. Put a little whisper in the back of your throat. And try to make sure your jaw stays soft. And just find your center. Bring your attention to the feeling of your breath, moving into your heart. Feel your sitting bones resting into the bolster or onto the floor or the blanket, whatever you've got. As we begin this practice today, I'd like to start with an Om. Bring your palms together to your heart if you wish to join me. Let's breathe in. Really nice. So come back to your Ujjayi breath. Put your hands on your knees and just start to move your trunk around a little bit. Maybe exhale as your trunk moves back and around. Inhale as your trunk moves forward and around, and just get a little bit of motion happening through your body. Remember, there's no right or wrong way to do any of this, right? Just explore what feels right in your body. So you're going to be your best guide here as to what is enough or too much or not enough, right? And so just feel into your body, and of course let there be any sort of variations or improvisation that feels right for you along the way. Okay, so raise your arms to the sky, big inhale, and then as you exhale, put your right hand to the mat, reach up and lean over to your side. Reach with your left arm, kind of turn your armpit up toward the ceiling. And if you've got a little bit of a sensitive neck, I like to do this anyway. Bend your elbow, put your hand behind your head and cradle your head in your hand, and then pull your head into your hand as your elbow reaches up to the sky. Just give yourself a moment to stretch your side body down. Feels great to open up the chest. A couple of deep breaths. And then bring it back upright. Send your other arm to the sky. Full reach toward the ceiling. Lean over to the other side. Turn your armpit slightly toward the sky. Now, if this feels amazing, stay right here. Otherwise, bend your elbow, cradling the back of your head, and just pull your head back just a little teeny bit. Let the breath work your ribs open from the inside out. Just give yourself these slow, deep Ujjayi breaths. Very good. Now release this thing. Come back to neutral. Remove anything out from underneath you. And I'm going to have you face forward, but I'm going to face sideways so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Inhale, lean your chest forward as you begin a cat-cow position. And exhale, round your spine. Draw your tailbone under, spread through your shoulder blades. Inhale, lean your chest forward. Lift your tailbone up. No compression allowed in the lower back. Exhale as you round your spine. And by compression, I mean kind of that pinchiness, right? Just lift and lower, nice and slow. And then after you've done that a couple of times, bring your knees even wider and begin a figure eight path. Go back around by your heels as you exhale, and then move forward and around by your wrists as you inhale. shoulders get involved. Let everything just move and groove here a little bit. Now, the next time you inhale, lean your chest forward, open up your heart, and when you exhale, round your spine, lower all the way to child's pose. But don't stay there. Come back to hands and knees pose. And inhale, look forward, and exhale, round, back to child's pose. Back to hands and knees, inhale, and exhale. Now, this time as you come to hands and knees, drop your shoulder blades together. Draw your tailbone under just a little teeny bit. Squeeze as if to pull your arms together. And then lift your knees like an inch off the floor. And we're going to hold this for a couple of breaths. If it feels a little intense, put your knees back down to the floor. Okay? But keep your ujjayi going. Keep your neck neutral and soft. And then slowly lift your hips up in the air for a bent knee version of downward facing dog. Adjust your position here a little bit. Your knees are pedaling maybe. Hips are moving side to side. Even if you are flexible, try to keep your knees bent this first couple of times around, just to kind of straighten our spine and get our arms to move and things like that. Now, this time on the inhale, bend your knees again, slow motion, bring your knees back to the mat, lift your chest forward, and exhale, round your spine, lower back to child's pose. Come back to hands and knees on the inhale. Back to downward facing dog, exhale, knees kind of bent. Then inhale again, hands and knees pose. And exhale, round your spine, back to child's pose. Okay, back to hands and knees pose, inhale. And as you exhale, lift back into a downward facing dog position. Now, you get to choose whether your knees are a little bit bent or legs are straight. Look up your hands, inhale, and as you exhale, step or hop or walk feet to hands. Now, if you wanted to, you could use blocks here. I'm going to switch and face forward, but you keep facing me. I'm going to inhale, bend my knees, looking forward, straight spine. Exhale, straighten the legs, and fold forward. If you don't need the blocks, put them off to the side. Inhale, or don't have blocks, whichever. Look forward, straighten up and fold forward. Here, we're just mobilizing some joints from spine to hips to knees, articulating back, articulating ankles, and just getting the blood to flow through all these major muscle groups. Awesome. Now, a little bend in the knees, open your arms, and straighten all the way up. Reach toward the sky, maybe a micro arch in your back. And as you exhale, bring your hands together, back to your partner. Let's do a couple half sun salutations. So set your feet about hip bone distance apart. Okay, hands to heart. Think about what's going on in your heart today. Hold that there. As you inhale, raise your arms to the sky. Touch your palms, and then as you exhale, fold forward slowly. With an inhale, slide your hands to about your kneecaps and look kind of forward. Nice. Fold forward, exhale. A little bend in the knees so your spine is straight. Stand all the way up. Straighten your legs at the end of the day. And exhale with your hands together, back to heart. Here we go again. A little bend in the knees. Straighten up. Reach all the way to the sky. And dive forward as you exhale. Flat spine. Breathe in. Fold forward on your exhale. Stand up again on your inhale. And exhale, hands to heart. Here we go. Third's the charm. Third time's the charm. Here we go. And exhale, bring it forward. Neutral as possible your head. Inhale, look forward, lean forward. Exhale, fold forward. Stand back up, breathe in. And exhale, hands together, back to heart. Okay, so here goes sun salutation A. Micro bend the knees just a little bit. Open your arms, straighten your legs as you come all the way up, touch your palms, and then exhale, same thing, dive forward. Come up halfway, look forward, inhale. Now, step into a plank position, upper push-up, Dandasana, and I can hang here, kind of soften the shoulders. I might also choose to bring my knees to the floor, whatever works best for you. Look kind of forward, just to the front part of your yoga mat, And then your exhale, we're going to lower slowly so that chest and belly land at the same time, the chaturanga. Roll your shoulders back and peel into a low cobra. A couple of slow breaths. Let it be easy on your back. Kind of hug your elbows in toward your ribs a little bit. So you're using your upper back muscles to open up your chest. Okay, press up to upper push-up position or hands and knees on your way back into a downward facing dog. Bend your knees and look forward to your hands and walk, hop, or step your feet forward. Then inhale, slide your hands to your kneecaps as you look forward. Fold forward on your exhale. Extend all the way up. Inhale, reach toward the ceiling. And exhale, hands together, back to heart. Here we go again. A little bit of these. Sun salutation in. Reach up. Exhale, fold forward, dive forward. Flat spine, breathe in. Step back to plank, inhale. Exhale, lower chaturanga. Cobra or upward facing dog, breathe in. And downward facing dog, exhale. Hold down dog for a couple of breaths. Bend your knees as you look up to hands, and then step forward, hop or walk feet to hands. Flat spine, inhale. Fold forward, exhale. And stand all the way up, inhale, reach toward the sky. Hands together, back to heart. Okay, now as you inhale, let's move into Utkatasana, chair pose. Bend your knees, hips are almost as low as the knees, maybe not quite, and then raise your arms to the sky. This is classic Utkatasana. To make it a little more intense, maybe you drop your seat, hands together, feet together, or bring your hands behind you and pull your head back up into your chest. To make it a little bit less intense, maybe bring your feet a little wider. Elbows could bend to right angles, right? The hardest pose isn't the better pose, it's just the harder pose, right? So figure out something that feels good for you. Let's give yourselves one more breath here, and then as you exhale, fold forward. Uttanasana. Flat spine, inhale, just like we've been doing. Now you've got the choice, either go straight to down dog, or move through plank pose to chaturanga, cobra, and up dog, to downward facing dog. I'm going to call that a vinyasa. So either move through a vinyasa, or we'll be just mentioning down dog. Raise your right leg in the air, inhale, step it forward on the exhale, and raise your arms toward the sky, Virabhadrasana 1. Big breath in, long breath out. Just like in our chair pose, Utkatasana, you might choose to bend the elbows. Okay? My back foot is about hip bone distance apart from my front foot, and my back foot is angled about a 45-degree off to the side. If that bothers my knee, I'll just lift my heel up and find that. Okay? One more breath here. On your exhale, hands to the floor. Your choice. Either straight to down dog or move through vinyasa, following your breath. Raise your left leg in the air, inhale. A breath or two. Then step your left foot forward between your hands. Turn your right heel flat. Prepare for warrior 1 as you raise your arms back to the sky. One more breath. Maybe go a little deeper if that feels okay. And as you exhale, hands to the ground. Either straight to down dog or move through your vinyasa. We all meet back in downward facing dog. Give yourself 3 or 4 deep breaths in down dog. Bend your knees to look up to your hands. Walk or hop your feet to hands. Inhale to a flat spine. Look forward. Exhale back to a forward fold and raise your arms back into Utkatasana. Bring your hands to your heart and twist to your right. So maybe you start with the right hand to hip and left hand to knee, using your shoulder to pull back to open up your trunk. Or if you want to go a little deeper, put your hand to your thighs, leverage to bring it into a twist as you look up toward the sky. Look down your knees, make sure your left knee is in line with your right knee. Go one more breath and exhale, fold forward. Comfortable stretch in the backs and thighs. Keep your deep Ujjayi breath happening. Now move back into chair pose here. Okay? Let me show you the side version. And then twist to your left. Either hand to knee, hand to hip, right? Or send your elbow to your thigh. Take a look down at your knees. Make sure they're in line. And give yourself a couple rounds of deep breath. Give yourself one more deep inhale here, and as you exhale, fold forward. Come to a flat spine as you inhale, step back into a downward facing dog pose, or move through your vinyasa. Again, I've changed position, but you can stay facing forward on your yoga mat. Now, inhale, raise your right leg in the air. Exhale, step your right foot forward between your hands. And put your left heel in line with your right heel as you open up into Warrior Two. Take a quick anatomy check and make sure your hips in line with your knee, knees pointing straight over your second toe, going straight forward. Your left hip might slightly go forward a bit. Let your arms be open and wide and relaxed. Give yourself a couple rounds of deep breath. Find your focus. Draw your center inward to your heart center. If it feels good, go a little bit deeper into this pose. Now place your left hand to your hip and push down. Let your left shoulder relax. Turn your right palm open as you let your right shoulder relax. Then raise your right arm to the sky. Start to lean back. Your left hand could wrap behind your body, grab hold of the inside of your thigh. Or maybe your left hand slides down your thigh for a little bit deeper expression. Bend your front knee a little bit deeper if your body's willing. Give yourself one more breath. Come back to Warrior Two as you straighten your right leg. Lean forward, everybody. If you want to, grab a block, put it to the inside or outside of your foot. Roll your shoulder back so your chest is open. Do a slight lift in your pubic bone. Inhale, raise your left arm to the sky for a comfortable triangle pose. You know, if level 10 is your most intense pose, hang out like at a level 7 or less. Look up for energy. Look forward for balancing, or look down for grounding. Either way, you got your deep breath moving. Last deep breath here. As you exhale, put your hands back to the mat. Slide into a plank pose, lower down Chaturanga, Cobra, or an upward facing dog position. And let's be back in downward facing dog. Raise your left leg in the air. Step the left foot forward between your hands. Turn your right heel flat, and let's move into Warrior Two pose on this side. I'm switching directions just so you can see what I'm doing here. So left leg is in front this time, and I'm going to look straight forward past my first middle finger, balancing effort and ease. Full deep breaths. Put your right hand to your hip, turn your left palm open to the sky, raise your left arm up, Start to lean back gently. And then find your variation. Maybe your hand slides down your thigh a little bit. Or maybe your right arm reaches back behind you. Any variation that suits you, go for it. Then move back into Warrior Two pose. Straighten up your front leg. Block optional if you've got one handy. I like to block on the outside of my thigh. And I'll start with my top hand, with that hand on the hip. So roll my shoulder back, open up my chest, kind of lean back just a little bit. Lift in the pubic bone, so find some core strength. Then I'm going to reach my arm up to the sky for a comfortable triangle pose. Now, as you're giving yourself these deep breaths, realize that the pose you start with isn't going to be the pose you end up with. After a couple of breaths, you might find yourself going a little bit deeper into the posture, or realize you've gone too deep and need to back off the pose a little bit, or bend your front knee a little bit, right? So let this be this organic thing, and you're negotiating this thing breath by breath. Last exhale, maybe go a little bit deeper if your body thinks that's a good idea. Okay, look down on the floor, set your hands to the ground, step back into plank pose as you lower Chaturanga. Cobra or up dog, inhale, and exhale back into downward facing dog. Now give yourself several breaths in downward facing dog to just find a couple of deep breaths. Kind of balance yourself a little bit. Take another deep inhale. If you need to, send a sigh out your mouth. Raise your right leg back in the air again. Step your right foot forward between your hands. Move into Warrior Two. And this time, bend your right elbow, place your forearm to your thigh. Slide your left foot even further back. And for 3 breaths, raise your left arm to the sky. Hold this variation of the pose. On your 3rd breath, put your right hand down to the floor or down to a block and press your knee to your elbow. Press your elbow back in your knee. Wrap your left hand behind you. If that's too much, keep your hand to your hip, but let your chest open up a little bit more. And if you'd like to try the full body of this pose, bring your forearm under your thigh, clasp your hands, and open up. After 3 or 4 breaths, release that pose. Lean forward. We're going to prepare for a balanced pose, block optional. As you lean forward, put your block or hand about 12 inches in front of your pinky toe. And then reach your arm to the sky. Your lifted leg is nice and strong as you reach up toward the ceiling. Open your chest a little bit more. And then as you exhale, place your hand to the floor. Step your left foot all the way to the back of your yoga mat. And put your back knee to the floor. And then open up into a kneeling lunge position. Untitled. Nice arch in your back. Plant your palms to the floor. Step back into a plank pose. Chaturanga on the exhale. Cobra or upward facing dog. Inhale, really getting your shoulders down your spine. Lift back into downward facing dog. As you're ready, lift your left leg in the air. Set the left foot forward between your hands and open up into Warrior Two on this side. Look straight forward past your left middle finger. Let your shoulders relax here a little bit. And maintain your deep breath. Bend your elbow. Place your forearm on your thigh. 3 breaths as you raise your right arm up toward the ceiling. If you'd like to go a little bit deeper, put your left hand down to the floor or to a block. Wrap your right hand behind you either by placing it on your hip or wrap it around, grab hold of the inside of your thigh. And then finally, if you want, bring your forearm under your thighs, you clasp your hands and open up your trunk toward the ceiling. Bind is optional, right? All poses are optional. Figure out the version that works best for you. Release this pose. Prepare for our half moon as we straighten out a little bit. Put your hand on the floor to support you, but you're not necessarily even holding any weight. Raise your arm to the sky. If you're brave, you can look up. That's usually exactly where I fall over in this pose. But to shore up your balance, look down. Or, you can be looking forward at your phone or computer, however you're viewing this. Okay, now finally place both hands to the floor. Gently step your right foot all the way back and raise your arms to Untitled, this kneeling lunge position. Look for a stretch here in the groin muscle. Last deep breath here. As you exhale, set your hands to the floor. Move through a Vinyasa Chaturanga. Inhale, Cobra or Upward Facing Dog, and Downward Facing Dog. So stay strong with me. We've got a couple more little sequences on the right and the left, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. So stay strong here. Raise your right leg in the air. Step your right foot forward between your hands. Exhale. Keep your left heel high. As you raise your arms toward the ceiling, Crescent Lunge pose. Blood's really flowing now. Make sure you keep your deep breath happening in and out through the nostrils. Hands come to heart. If you need to, you're welcome to bend your left knee all the way to the floor. Bring your left elbow to the outside of your right thigh for a twisting crescent lunge. Right, there's a bind option or an arms expanded option. If you know that, go for it. Now reach arms back to the sky. Inhale. Straighten up your front leg a little bit on the exhale. And step your back foot forward just enough so that both of your feet can press on the floor. I like to use a block in this pose. So I'm going to lean forward now and find myself with my hands pressing on my thigh or my shin or the block. Kind of an easy stretch. And then I'm going to start to go a little bit deeper, Bakasana. My feet are about hip bone distance apart. 10 toes pointing forward, both feet pressing firmly into the floor. So relax your neck. I'll show you the side view here. So I'm kind of looking back to my back foot, letting my head and neck relax here. Now, your left hand could be on your right shin, or left hand could be on a block. If so, I like to put it on the outside. Put your right hand up to your right hip and pull your right shoulder back. Then raise your right arm to the sky for a twisted triangle pose. Keep both of your heels, particularly your back heel, rooted down into the floor. Deep breaths. Give yourself one more deep breath in, and as you exhale, place your hands to the floor, step straight back into a downward facing dog pose, or move through a vinyasa. Raise your left leg on the inhale. Take your left foot forward between the hands on the exhale. And inhale, raise your arms to the sky, crescent lunge. Strong in your back leg. This is really the important part, this nice, strong back leg. Put your hands to your heart, everybody, and then twist as you you can kind of go like this, or bring your elbow to the outside of your thigh. Remember, like we did last time, you can even put your knee on the floor for some support. Kind of scoot your back leg back as far as it'll go to be really strong in that leg. And then bring it back to neutral. Step your back foot in a little bit, straighten both legs. So I like to start this pose without any stretch whatsoever. Get the foundation set, square off your hips, and then as you lean forward, put your hands down on your block, the shin. Start off with an easy stretch and then slowly move your way forward. Can you keep this like at the level 7 stretch? Remember, if level 10 is your most intense, what does level 7 feel like? Or less? Now place your right hand up to your right hip, press it back so you're getting long with your trunk, roll your left shoulder back. Maybe your right hand goes to your left shin, or your right hand goes to the outside of your foot, maybe to a block. And if you want, then raise your left arm to the sky for twisting triangle pose. There's a lot that's going on in this pose. It's kind of a complicated pose. Be gentle with yourself, even if that means bending your front knee a little bit. We're almost there, but it's kind of the home stretch for this sequence, and then we'll take a little bit of a break. Last breath here. And as you exhale, plant your hands to the floor, take it back to a downward facing dog pose, or move through a vinyasa. Now, after 2 or 3 breaths in a downward facing dog, come to a resting pose. That might be child's pose, or maybe we revisit cat-cow position. Give yourself a moment to relax a little bit. Now, as you're doing so, remember to keep your center. That means long, deep Ujjayi breaths. This is a great place to hydrate. Make your way back up to a hands and knees pose. Find your way back into a downward facing dog. And notice how down dog feels different now compared to the way it felt at the beginning of our practice. Look up to your hands, bend your knees, walk or hop to the front part of your yoga mat, and come up into this Samasthiti with the inside edge of your feet together, hands back to heart. Now we're going to switch gears just a little bit from active dynamic poses to static poses, where we're going to invest a little bit more attention to our balancing. So standing on your left leg, slide your right foot up into your ankle if balance is a little bit tricky for you, or to your calf muscle, okay? Or reach over, grab the inside of your foot and put it all the way up to the inside of your thigh with hands to heart, Vrikshasana. And if it serves you to do so, you might also reach your arms toward the ceiling. Deep Ujjayi breath. Look at one thing and see if you can keep your focus right on that thing. Your tree is going to sway in the wind a little bit. That's fine. That's expected. If tree is no big deal for you, try closing one or both of your eyes in this pose. Suddenly it becomes a big deal. Finally, let's bring our hands to our heart. Float your leg forward for a hot second before bringing it down to the floor. Then raise your arms to the sky and release with a sigh. Big breath in and exhale. Okay, so bring it back to neutral here. hands to heart, find yourself balanced in Samasthiti, same standing pose. And then let's do the other side. So left foot's going to come up to ankle, right? And you can keep that big toe to the floor like a kickstand, maybe your calf muscle. Try to avoid pushing into the inside of your knee. Otherwise, put your foot up all the way to the inside of your thigh here as you find your balance. Now my standing leg is actively pushing into the gesture foot, which is also pushing into the active leg. And either this is my pose or my arms are going to reach up toward the ceiling. Deep Ujjayi breaths. Negotiate however you need to. We're not looking for perfect poses. There's not such a thing that exists. Each pose is just a tool to practice being present, to align body, mind, and spirit, to get the body to feel good, right? To get the energy to flow, to focus my mind. Good. Bring it back to center. Float your gesture foot and bring it back down to the floor. Really nice. Okay, feet about hip bone distance apart. Send your arms to the sky. Big breath in, and then release with a sigh. Let's do this a couple times. Big breath. Last time. Okay, we're going to come to a squat position. Now, you may choose to use a block or something like that. Try to keep your heels on the floor. You can sit on a block if that feels good, like so. If you have a block, if not, don't worry about it, right? You can even do a high squat like this if your hips or knees don't love this posture. Now, I want to give two different options here. Number one, we can just find a nice grounding pose, feet to the floor. I'm doing a gentle squeeze of the inner thighs into my elbows as my elbows press back into my inner thighs, and then to stimulate this sixth chakra, the Ajna chakra, the seat of our deep inner knowing, maybe I'll rest my forehead on my thumbs. Okay, so this is option one, which is this grounding settling pose like this. Option number two is to then take this forward into Bakasana or crow pose, okay? So if I'm a little bit newer to crow pose, if I've got a block handy, I'm going to grab the block, put it about an arm distance away from me like so, put my hands shoulder distance apart as I lift my hips up, lean forward and squeeze in. Maybe my forehead goes to the block as I lift my feet up, and then I might choose to look forward, but I've got this block there for me if I need a little bit of support. If you can, touch big toes together. Keep your Ujjayi breath going, especially during a challenging pose like this. And then we'll meet back in squat pose, okay? You might roll around your wrists a little bit. Now, if you've been in squat pose for a little while and your hips or knees are getting a little tired, feel free to straighten up and fold forward. If it feels good, let's stay in squat pose, okay? So now we've got the option of staying in squat, or again, once again, moving into crow pose. If you don't need the block, it's fine. Remember, this is a teeter-totter. The fulcrum point, the pivot point, is the wrists. So find your ground in your wrist, spin your fingers out a little bit, squeeze your knees in. As you lift your hips up, lean forward, pull in tight, then one foot at a time comes up into crow pose if you're going for crow. Please be careful. Keep your breath going. And then finally, as we come back down, release and roll around for the wrists. Okay? In this pose, come to a kneeling pose if this works for your shins and your knees. Again, an option could be a block to put underneath your seat, like so. So we're going to hang out in Vrajasana for just a moment as we let go of some of the tension maybe that exists in our shoulders and wrists. Open your arms like wings. Bring your right arm on bottom, left arm on top for eagle arms. And if your arms don't love that, you can also bring your hands to your shoulders. But either way, lift your elbows up off your chest. Squeeze forearms together. Continue your deep Ujjayi breath. And you might even find a little slow side-to-side action with your head. Bring it back to neutral, shake out your hands, And then before we do the other side, plant your hands and step back into a downward facing dog pose for a moment. Just 3 or 4 breaths. Come back to Vrajasana, back to this kneeling pose as you bring your knees down to the floor. And again, maybe you're sitting on a block. Arms go wide again like wings. Wrap your wings into eagle arms. Remember, we've got the option, the hands on the shoulders. Lift the elbows up. And then do a slow motion turn of your head side to side. Release, send it out, shake your arms. And then a couple more breaths back into downward facing dog. So plant your palms down and step back, lift your hips. Very good. So I'd like to move into some hip openers now, and you get to choose which we'd like to do. I'm going to demonstrate both. So I'm thinking of maybe pigeon pose or figure 4 position lying on your back. So for pigeon, maybe from a downward facing dog pose, I'm going to put my right knee forward toward my right wrist, slide my left thigh back. I'm going to hang out here maybe an upward pigeon Rajakapatasana for a few breaths. Maybe even slide a block underneath my hip if I feel like I need it, before eventually coming down onto my elbows and relaxing in something like this. Relaxing might be a relative term, depending on how tight your hips are. If it's really tight, try lying down on your back with one ankle over your thigh and reach through as you hold around your shin, pull your left knee toward your chest. Either way, keep your right foot flexed toward your shin and maintain your slow whisper breaths. After a couple of breaths, see if your body's willing to let you go a little deeper into this pose. Again, I'm looking, as always, for that level 7 stretch or less. Good. If you're lying on your back position, just relax. Maybe pedal out your legs a little bit. Shake out your right hip. Make some circles. If you're in regular pigeon, maybe take it back into a downward facing dog. Pick up your right leg so it's parallel, the shin's parallel to the floor, and just kind of wag it side to side as you turn your femur bone in the hip socket. You might even open up your hip toward the ceiling for a moment, and then switch legs. Perhaps your back leg lifts to the sky, and then arrange for this pose. So, again, you might stay upright for a couple of breaths, take a block, maybe put that under your hip if that serves you. You're going to find a deeper stretch with your heel toward your groin versus heel away from the groin. So, figure out what's going to make sense for your body. Your back, heels pointing up, pinky toes pressing into the floor, right? Find a comfortable approach to this, whether that's our normal pigeon pose. Again, if you have any strain in your knee or it's just too much of a stretch for your hip, lie down on your back, cross ankle over thigh, and do the figure 4 version of this pose. With every exhale, see if your body might let you go a little deeper in this pose, never to the point of strain, right? You're just hanging out, feeling a great stretch. And then when it feels like you've kind of had you go with this and this side is bounced with the other side, release, right? And find some sort of balance. Shake out your legs, find your way back into a downward facing dog pose. If you were in pigeon, we're going to end up on our backs for a moment. So if you are already on your back, after you've kind of switched out through your legs a little bit, if you've got a block handy, great. You don't need it, but again, if you've got it, we might use it here. We're going to move into a bridge pose. So lie down on your back, place your feet to be about as wide as your hips, and walk your shoulder blades together. Bend your elbows like robot arms, and then pull your hips up in the air. Now that can be your pose, or perhaps you get your block and slide that underneath your sacrum. Now, if you want to open up your chest a little bit more in this pose, interlace your fingers, walk your shoulder blades together as your arms go straight. Remember a little lift of your chin to balance the tension in your neck. Make sure your toes point straight forward and that your heels are about as wide as your pinky toes. One more breath here, and as you exhale, release your hands and lower down vertebra by vertebra back to the floor. Now neutralize your pose with your legs long, bring your arms over your head. And then pull your knees into your chest for a little bear hug as you go side to side. Knees together, make your knees go wide in circles. Switch and go the opposite direction. Now this time around we've got three options. Number one, we'll lift into regular bridge pose. Okay? Robot arms or arms straight. Option two, I'm going to do a supported bridge with block under the sacrum, and I'm just going to relax in this pose. Or if I feel like Urdhva Dhanurasana, full back bend is my practice, maybe I put my hands up on my shoulders, spin my fingers out a little bit, and I'll prepare for full back bend. Whichever your pose, hold that for 4 or 5 breaths, and then when you feel complete, roll back down slowly. Let's first neutralize arms overhead, legs long. Take your time to get here. And then pull your knees back into your chest. It might be nice to do a little rock side to side. Perhaps your knees make these circles. So we're going to do a couple variations of a shoulder stand. And if you have a blanket handy, I like to use a blanket always in this pose. I'm going to put a blanket down and actually fold my mat over the blanket so I've got a little bit of extra cushion underneath my shoulders. Now, again, the blanket is optional. You might even just fold over your mat a time or two. A block is useful in this pose. I'm going to lay down so that my shoulders are about 1 inch from the edge of this, and the easiest version of this pose, I'm just going to slide a block under my sacrum, kind of walk the shoulder blades together, and then lift legs up in the air, voila. Easiest version of shoulder stand. I get all that inverted quality. Now, with this underneath my shoulders, I might choose to move into a half shoulder stand where I'm going to prop my elbows down and roll up. Now, I start off in the sideways V, where all my weight's going down into my elbows, from my hips to my elbows. My neck is totally free. From there, if it feels good, then I might move up into full shoulder stand. Some people like to move into cloud pose, toes back behind the head. Figure out what works for you. After 4 or 5 breaths, put yourself back in a half shoulder stand or remove the block and lie down gently on the floor. Neutralize by just opening your arms wide. If you've got the blanket under your shoulders. This acts as an automatic, gentle counter pose. A couple of deep breaths. Roll over to one side, come upright to a seated position for a moment as we prepare for fish pose. Now, I like to do fish pose like this. I'll start on my elbows, pull the shoulder blades together, my heart opens up. If my neck's kind of feeling sensitive, sometimes my neck gets a little bit, fatigued, or I get a little kink in there, I might just keep my gaze forward toward my toes. Purpose for the pose is to open up the chest and counter what we did by closing off the chest and the throat, the last pose. But if it feels good, then I'll walk my elbows toward my hips, tilt my head back, and drop my head all the way down to the floor into full Matsyasana. Similarly, I might bring my legs up, perhaps hands together. After several breaths, take a moment to relax, neutralize by just lying down on the floor. Bring the soles of your feet together and your knees wide. Optional if you have some blocks handy, that you can slide them underneath your knees for support. But here we want to start to become as passive as possible. You might even choose to come up to a seated pose if you like doing that better for Bakasana. Since you're already on your back, it's kind of nice to just kind of stay on the back. Now after 4 or 5 breaths, bring your left knee over to meet your right knee. Reach your left arm over to the side and twist in that direction. If you're in a seated position, cross your legs if somebody feels comfortable, and just do a little twist. You might also choose to do Ardha Matsyendrasana, which is the leg over the thigh version. Twist in the other direction. Either a seated twist or got one leg over the other. Good, and bring it back to the middle. Now we're going to get ready for Shavasana, and I'm going to lead us through some Shavasana. So get yourself set up in any way that you need to be totally comfortable here. If ever you are sort of running a little short on time, just end your practice a little bit earlier, but keep your Shavasana just as long. It's such an essential part of this process. It's sort of like allowing the paint to dry on the canvas, right? Allowing the cement to cure. It's the time necessary for the thing to all the parts to kind of come into center. A lot of times when we're cooking something at home, and it's not until the next day that all the flavors have really coalesced. This is that kind of coalescing time where everything gets to come to center. So give yourself a moment, send a sigh again out your mouth. Let your feet be about as wide as your yoga mat. Let your arms be about a little wider than your yoga mat, palms turned open. And close your eyes. And let's give yourself just a few moments to relax. I brought my clarinet today. I'm going to play some music. And I invite you to simply pay attention to notice whatever arises. Allow everything to just be in this moment. And let's just focus on the music. Get yourself centered and grounded in your body.
Before anything happens, before we change anything up, just notice what you've done for yourself, body, mind, and spirit. For a moment as you're relaxing, think of all the things in your life that sort of rely on you to be you. And consider that the work you've done for yourself today is crucial. The work that you've done for yourself today is going to benefit the lives of everybody you come in contact with. And make you feel more rich within yourself. Take a couple of deep breaths if you haven't already. Start to move fingers and toes. Roll over to one side and make your way back upright to a seated position, nice and slowly. And as you come upright, open your arms wide, take a big inhale as you lift your hands toward the ceiling. And with an exhale, drop your hands back down to your heart. And you are welcome to listen or join in, but I'd like to finish our practice with one Om. Inhale. Thank you so much for joining me today, everybody. Namaste.